It's time to hammer.
Now I gotta really try hard.
Shut it down! Somehow it's the best.
The YumChunks podcast.
YumChunks!
Welcome to another episode of After the Credits. I will be your host tonight, Christopher Schmidt. With me is Sean Davis and Ryan Davis. Say hello, guys.
Good evening.
Hello.
Chris.
Good evening.
Today's episode, we're going to talk about Mission Impossible 6. I don't remember the subtitle. I also have not seen said movie, so I will be here.
Wait a
posing
second. Wait, hold
questions.
on here. This doesn't add up. You lied to us. You're not Chris Schmidt at all.
You got me.
He really did see the
You're-
movie and mastered their face technique.
So, thanks to a resounding response to the question posed in our Teen Titans Go episode, we have decided to do a Mission Impossible episode at your request.
We do what they demand. Fans demanded it, and we'll provide.
I didn't even know we had that many listeners. It was ridiculous how many people responded.
I pay a whole bunch of people in like China to just like listen to us.
I hear they're pretty cheap.
They do farm in gold farming. It's just listen farming. Yeah, Mission Impossible 6 Fallout. That's what you're looking for.
Fallout.
Oh, yeah.
It is the Fallout of the Mission Impossible series, meaning you start off in a vault after the nuclear holocaust, and then you get a dog and probably blow up a town.
Probably. You lost everyone. We now have no listeners. Well, since I'm sure we haven't done anything exciting in the last since we talked about
Hey. We've done so many things. So many things. Let me tell
how
you.
about this?
Wait.
What?
Let me
Alright,
tell
go
you
for
about
it.
all the
What'd
things
you
that
do?
I've done since our last recording. I saw this movie on Netflix called. Wait, this is actually real. Mascots. It's called Mascots. It's by the people who made all those other ones like Waiting for Guffman and A Mighty Wind
Yeah.
and Best in Show.
Oh, I heard that. It's like sports mascots, right?
Yeah, it's actually. I thought it was actually pretty good. I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, if you're a fan of that style of comedy and filmmaking,
Wait, so a Netflix film that was not awful?
correct. I mean, I guess if you ask someone else, maybe they would think it's terrible. But because I'm already a fan of of all those actors and the style and Christopher Guest and all that stuff, I'm already sold. So that was pretty good.
Our
I
listeners
also
are blown away.
yeah,
Ryan actually liked the movie.
on Netflix. I like plenty
On
of movies.
Netflix.
This Netflix is the criteria. And also, I saw the movie Blind Spotting. I would definitely recommend that film. That is also one of my favorite movies of the year.
Oh, that's right. That was the movie with the guys in it. I know of that movie.
It has the guy from Kimmy Schmidt, the love interest from the latest seasons. And he's actually a legitimately fantastic freaking actor. It is kind of funny because he does sort of like rap in the movie a little bit, so it kind of reminded me of that scene in Kimmy Schmidt where he like sucks at doing it. But no, it's just a freaking fantastic movie. I mean, at its core, it's a buddy comedy, but it's of course about like racial stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry to reduce it to not a very elegant racial stuff. Anyway, so yeah, I highly recommend that. I also saw at the Moonlight. I saw the play Newsies. Yeah, so that was
Clearly
Was Christian
terrible
Bell.
because
Was
there's
Christian
no Christian Bell in
lived
it.
up.
well,
Performance?
Christian Bell doesn't have a lot of work right now, so he decided to reprise his
What are you talking about? He's
30 years ago.
He's Bagheera and Mowgli.
Yeah, that just needs his voice though. He doesn't need to be
You
there
just
physically.
did it on the phone.
Yeah, just like we're doing with these podcasts.
We're doing them on our landlines.
Newsies, it's kind of funny watching it that now. I want to go back and watch the movie, but of course it's about like rise up and fight the man. But watching it now, I'm like, yeah, but I mean, newspaper doesn't even exist anymore. Like, like it's hard to like. It took me, I think, the first full act before I was like convinced to care about the characters and their plight, which sounds pretty heartless of me, but it was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, is it that bad though? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've done.
That's cool. I haven't done anything. I was just gonna talk about some news stuff. Chris, have you done anything?
Like what new stuff, huh?
I don't know if there's any new stuff you want to talk about. There's two things that I thought were kind of interesting. One, MoviePass is just imploding. I don't know how you guys feel about that because we're all MoviePass subscribers.
Yeah, I wanted to succeed just so I can keep seeing movies for so cheap.
I know. I guess they've reduced it to 3 movies a month, which is still, I mean, if you see 3 movies a month, it's still better. You're still saving a ton of money.
Right. I'm not sure. I kind of want to understand the background behind the business because I'm not sure how that makes a difference. Like the movie theaters aren't losing money based on me attending the films because I'm attending films when there's plenty of empty seats. So I'm not sure what they think they're doing. I think the movie industry in terms of the theater part of it is kind of backwards and broken. I mean, they show the film regardless of attendance, right? So why not take every opportunity to fill every seat you possibly can?
You're wasting money, essentially.
Yeah,
or resources anyway.
Exactly. Your overhead's the same, approximately. Yeah, there's theater cleanup and stuff like that, but that's, minimal. So if the overhead's the same, why not maximize profits by putting people in the seats?
As a theater chain, that's what you want anyway, because you're not making money on the ticket sales. You're making money on the concessions.
Precisely.
So you want, you don't care if they didn't pay anything to get into your theater. You just want people there.
Yeah.
The off chance, I'm more likely to buy concessions because of MoviePass, because I'm like, I didn't spend money on the ticket. I can spend money on food I don't like.
Right. What's so funny about that is I refuse to buy concessions, partly because they're so ridiculously overpriced, and the fact that I used to work at a movie theater, and that biases me against those shenanigans. But the last movie I saw with MoviePass, I was so thirsty just because it's been really hot and stuff, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a freaking soda. It's still cheaper than the movie ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe we should just give this kind of feedback to the theaters because maybe they're missing this opportunity for profit.
I'm not sure where this kind of pushback is. I mean, it does seem like a pie in the sky kind of business model. Just free movies for $10. How is this possibly going to work? But it apparently worked somehow for a little while anyway. Right. But where the pushback is coming from the studios or from the theater chains, I kind of feel like it's coming from both, but I don't know the specifics, so it's hard to say.
And then AMC is starting their own, so clearly someone acknowledges it as a good idea. But
it's weird though because there's still AMC on MoviePass, maybe just because the AMC thing hasn't really started out yet. Because there's AMC, I go to the AMC's, that's the closest theaters to me, so I use MoviePass at those AMC's still.
Yeah,
but also it just does feel like, if they can't go back to the prior business model, it's unsustainable. I mean, if going to the movies now for $20 a ticket, you see one movie, you're in there, and if you have a family or it's just silly. And so I'm just not sure what their solution they think is going to be is, cancel, get rid of the MoviePass, which is more in line with how we are consuming just media and things in general now.
Right.
You adapt to survive, and you don't just we don't like it. You're going to stop doing it.
Right.
But I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I thought that was kind of a bummer, but we'll see if it actually affects how much I actually use it or not. Apparently they've done, their data shows that most people only go about 3 movies a month anyway, so it won't affect theoretically most people anyway. So
right.
We'll see. And then something else I thought was just kind of cool is that Black Panther's now become the third movie to gross domestically over $700 million.
Oh wow.
How is that movie still making money?
I don't know. It's still in theaters, though. There's a couple theaters near me that are still showing it.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's cool. I just, it's not near, I don't think it's in our area or down in North County.
It's ridiculous that it's still in theaters because it is out on Blu-ray. Avengers Infinity War has come out and is now about out on Blu-ray. It's out digitally. Like, how is that still in theaters and people are showing up to it?
I don't know.
Where they're just like, I should spend the same amount of money and just buy it.
Yeah, it is funny, especially in light of the MoviePass stuff. Like, I mean, people are still paying money for like when they obviously don't have to.
Right.
So I don't know. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, I thought it was just kind of interesting and kind of cool. But that's all I got. Any other news or topics of interest before we jump into some impossible feats of Tom Cruise-ness?
While we're talking about impossible physical feats, fantasy football is about to start up.
Pass.
About that.
That only applies to me. So I'm going to hold a little corner here for about 15 minutes just to elongate this episode a little bit of me talking to myself about my draft options and how
I don't want to do any. That could be a bonus episode.
Yeah.
I haven't done fantasy football in years. I did used to do it though, but
is it because you didn't give the actual money the last time you did it?
Maybe. I think I owed Joe someone like $20. Whatever.
So now you've heard it here first. Sean, the terrible human being.
That's not what they have not heard it here first. That's been heard many times before. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Well, we could jump right into it then.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah. Wait, did you already say full disclosure, Chris? You have not actually seen the movie?
Full disclosure for all of those who have not actually seen the movie, including myself, we're about to spoil everything. So if you would like to remain virgin to the events of Mission Impossible Fallout, please skip to the end now.
Don't turn it off, though. Just skip to the end.
Yeah, there's really important stuff you're going to want to hear at the end of this. Yep, Mission Impossible 6. Tom Cruise is an old man, but he's still crazy and doing crazy stuff.
He is indeed. So let's start with first impressions. Sean, what was your impression of said movie?
I got a kick out of it. It was super enjoyable. It was super fun. It was like the perfect kind of action movie that you want from an action movie. Yeah, I've actually really, really enjoyed the last 3 Mission Impossibles. For whatever reason, I think they've just kind of been invigorated and just like turned into kind of strangely one of the more sleeper but yet still bombastic kind of cinematic franchises out right now, and it didn't let me down. I was kind of expecting it to be kind of bored with this kind of set piece kind of action scenes by now, but it did not bore me. I was entertained throughout, and I thought actually the plotting in this one was a little step up from the last one, at least. That was a little bit more interesting and had to pay a little bit more attention than often is the case with like these big action movies. So, and say what you will about Tom Cruise, I still think this is the perfect type of movie for him. Like it's the same director, but Edge of Tomorrow, which I loved. Like,
yeah,
was great in that. Like, he's just like perfect for these roles. And so I'm still on board. I'll keep watching them if they make more, which I'm sure they will. Why would they not make money? So,
where would you rank it in the pantheon of Mission Impossible films?
Oh, all the way back to classics. Actually, that's a good question because I was thinking about that. I think my favorite is still the first one because that one is super crazy plot-wise, and every time I watch it, I don't know what's happening in the plot. Sorry. And so it's always like feels kind of new in some ways. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Whoa, what's going on now? Oh man, even though I've seen it 5 times or 10 times or whatever. So my favorite's that one, and then I think my second favorite, it might be this one. It's either this one or tie with this one, or the fourth one. And that was I think was that Rogue Nation or Ghost Protocol? I don't remember.
That was Ghost Protocol.
Yeah,
Ghost Protocol. And that was the one where he like climbs the tower in Dubai.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was really good.
Yeah, so it's between those two for my second, third, and then Probably the fifth one, the one that came out 2 years ago, which was also a lot of fun, but I felt like wasn't as good as this one. And then the Mission Impossible 3, the one with like Philip Seymour Hoffman, directed by J.J. Abrams. I remember liking that one when it first came out, but on repeat viewings, I don't think it really holds up. I don't know.
I agree. Actually,
it's not as memorable. And then my least favorite is Mission Impossible 2, which again, when I first saw it, I was much younger as a kid, and I loved it. And it's really, now I go back and it's like laughably, hilariously like cliche and bad. And it's just like John Woo making a parody of himself, almost like doves flying out on motorcycles flying into each other.
Well,
like,
I imagine
there's still
that's
an
why they
entertainment
hired them,
factor,
right? They were just
Yeah,
like,
but
yeah,
it's-
John Woo, make a John Woo film. You're hot right now. Make this that.
Well, I haven't seen that movie
I just
in a
don't
while.
think it's. Yeah,
so.
I don't know if it's. I just don't know if it stands up as well as a lot of the other ones. Anyway, so that's how I'd rank it. So this one's either it's in the upper half for me for sure.
All right, Ryan, what were your
Yeah.
impressions of Mission Impossible Fallout?
I was impressed in a very similar fashion. I think it is kind of like the perfect action movie, just keeping you on the edge of the seat until the very, very end, which is kind of impressive considering the movie is, 2.5 hours long, and you're still, they keep you suspensed up until, pretty much the last minute, which is impressive considering, from entering the movie, you kind of know it's going to work out all right. You know what I mean? They're not actually going to blow anything up, or, kill any main character. Not to spoil it too much, but no dramatic, long-lasting consequences for our beloved heroes. So, although they do, there's still plenty of tricks where maybe you think otherwise or whatever. But, so I think it kind of just was firing all cylinders, and also kind of made me appreciate this kind of filmmaking where, I think the Marvel movies, we always have to keep talking about them, but I think they just have this engine where they can keep cranking out movies that consistently deliver and provide suspense and action, and they're just really great movies. But it's good to see that some other filmmakers, they have it figured out too, and they can deliver just as much amazing,
like the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Correct, or Transformers even.
All grade A franchises. You mentioned Fast and Furious, and we're joking, but at least to their credit, the last few, I actually didn't like the last one as much, but I do feel like, 5, 6, and 7 or something, they kind of realized what they were and just embraced that, and I think it was all the better for it. And so in terms of the action stuff, I think Mission Impossible is kind of in the same vein, but it's just a smarter franchise in general.
Jumping over bridges with a moving car stuff.
Yeah, or a tank going down a freeway, just shooting cars that are fast. That's
Any other impressions, Ryan?
Actually, so right, like Sean said, whatever he said about Tom Cruise, it's kind of like, I think now whatever grievances we had with him are now long in the past, especially, so I don't know, he's just, everyone loves Tom Cruise. You can't stay mad at the guy.
Yeah.
And
I think it's because his Satan levels have gotten so low. That's why I like
That's probably what it was, yeah.
Or high. True. I don't know how it works.
But obviously there's a quote-unquote running joke with Tom Cruise that he has to run a bunch in films. And so I felt like this one, they were kind of winking at the audience like, hey guys, here's a 10-minute sequence of Tom Cruise running. Literally 10 minutes, no cuts, him just running.
And not only was it just it was that was the goal, with Benji, Edgar Wright is on, not Edgar Wright, what's his name? You know who I'm talking about. Is on the communications, run faster.
Oh,
keep
Simon
running.
Pegg, yeah, Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg, yeah, sorry. So, where that was just the whole suspense of the scene is you gotta run faster.
Yeah, right. So it was that whole sequence. I thought was they were definitely winking at the audience, right?
Yeah.
It had to have been. Which of course the whole thing was hilarious, and it's just so fun watching Tom Cruise run on film because he just has this amazing posture, right?
Yeah.
And he's got
just so into it. It makes me want to go run, but then when I do, I'm like, oh, this sucks.
This is hard.
Why does he make it look so fun?
And he's gonna be
especially because it's like all these romantic places, like it's through the middle of the streets of Paris, which is like super beautiful. And he's like running by the Notre Dame and all this stuff. And you're like, oh man, that looks so cool.
I wish I could
run through
there.
like these.
Because you go outside and it's 100 degrees.
And you're like, nope.
The worst.
Yeah. And he's in like a full suit too, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't he? Like
how old is he's in his mid-50s now,
He's
right?
56, I think. I looked it up after the film. I'm like, man, that guy, because his age is starting to show a little bit, whatever. But I'm like, man, he is in way better shape than me.
Well, it's funny because there's like all the special effects, for the most part are like, real, quote unquote real. They're not like CG and all that stuff.
Yeah.
For the most part, I'm sure there's some stuff they do, but I joke that, like all the CG budget was probably on Tom Cruise's face to look like.
I know, because it's funny. They're like, we can save a bunch of money because he does his own stunts.
Yeah.
We'll just rededicate those resources to his face.
And he could still pass for what, 30 something? Yeah. I don't know I don't know.
Maybe early 40s.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess 40 is a little more.
Yeah, but anyway, it totally works. He's just. Yeah, and it actually, there's one scene in the movie, and it reminded me partly of why I liked Tom Cruise, or maybe why everyone likes him. He had this moment where he got like really, really intense. He didn't go full Tom Cruise intensity, but like he kind of let it show a little bit, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that really intense version of Tom Cruise. I don't know if you remember the scene I'm talking about, but he just kind of.
What scene is it? Just tell me. We spoiler warnings.
I think it's the scene where they're in the sewers. And he's like arguing with Alec Baldwin, and he's like, "There's no way you can believe Fred." Like, which ends up being this like quadruple Jew thing, which was. I want to break down that scene and see if it actually made sense. But
yeah, I kind of want to watch that again and see if it makes sense. I remember like kind of calling a little bit ahead of time, like in terms of the double. Like I'm like, oh, I think I know what's coming, and that happened. But then all the other stuff, I'm like, oh, what? I didn't see that coming. But actually, just structurally, I really like that too, because I was expecting that to be the climax of the film. Like, and so then when there was still a whole other like half an hour left, and there was a bigger climax that was even crazier. It's like, whoa! I was expecting the film to be over by now, and not in a I was bored way or a bad way. Like, oh, this is cool. There's a whole another gigantic crazy set piece action sequence.
Yeah, and plus it gave a lot of opportunity for the quote unquote or for the villain to be revealed, and then have a lot of these face-offs between the hero and the villain. My favorite being when he's on the bottom of the elevator looking up
that
the
scene was great.
That scene was so good. Man, that was just really suspenseful, and you feel so helpless but so like angry at the same time. Like, that was
and he just knows, he's like, nothing you can do. What are you gonna do? I'm just gonna taunt you and sit here. And then because I was like, oh, the villain's revealed. Oh, it's the end of the movie though. Shoot, I wish they had more time to really. But then there's the whole sequence, and it gives everyone else more stuff to do too in that last sequence. I really how like everyone has kind of it's not just Tom Cruise. There's like everyone has some exciting.
Yeah, everyone had a role
moments.
to play in that final.
Like that
conflict.
fight scene with Simon Pegg was actually really intense. Like. That I thought that whole fight scene was really good too. So
that was really good, and that reminds me of the Lane character who he's fighting against. I thought was actually a really, really. I don't know if the actor did a great performance, but I thought his character was really cool. Kind of. I mean, it's been done before, where like, if let's say just something happened wrong and our hero became the villain, like he would be the worst villain, right? Because he would. He's a. Everyone else is an NPC, but he's a player character working against you.
It's like if Batman, like it's always kind of this thing that Batman becomes a villain. It's like, oh shoot, the
We're
DC universe
screwed.
or Superman or whatever, But like, the same idea.
Yeah. So plus you like it for that reason, and of course it's like a mirror to show that Ethan Hunt's what his choices and the consequences of those actions. So I like that they went into a little bit of his character a little bit more, and kind of tried to bring the series and make the whole series feel cohesive, and by bringing back his wife character,
Michelle Monaghan.
Monaghan.
Yep.
Bringing her back in and kind of tying that all together and kind of just showing, this is the price for the life he's decided to lead and the choices he made, and so I really like that. I thought it was really cool, and of course that that's basically the title of the film. So that was cool.
What else do you want to know about the movie, Chris?
You guys covered a lot there. I mean, Ryan, where would you place this in all the pantheon?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've said it previously on another podcast, but I usually always default to whatever the original is of a given series, just because, well, it was the original, and all subsequent films will always be compared to it, and therefore that kind of becomes the standard. But I would put it like on par with that movie. I did really like Ghost Protocol, but I think this one actually overall I liked a little bit more. So maybe number 2. And I think one of the things that the series kind of has moved away from a little bit, and one of the reasons why I still like the original more is that, as we all recall, this is actually based on a TV show. And the TV show, every episode did this amazing job. Well, it did a couple things that were really cool. One being that it had Leonard Nimoy. That was great, and it's just disappointing that we can't do that anymore. No, but seriously, one of the things that it did great was it always kept, like, it always pulled the wool over your eyes. You think things are going wrong. Like, every episode they do it, and somehow it still fools you. But you think it's going all awry. The whole thing was botched or screwed. But then you realize, oh wait, I missed. They do the reveal, and then you're like, oh, that's right. They told us that, and they had done this previously, and now you tricked me. And the first one, I think, did that pretty well.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think this one. I don't think it. At the last 3, as amazing, great as they are, I don't think they quite. They're not trying to either, though. You know what I mean? It's just a different direction.
I feel like this one maybe did a little bit more than the previous ones. I think that's why I thought it was the climax, because I felt like that climax, that moment in the sewers, that was the moment they're like, we kind of knew what was going on the whole time. Gotcha. But then they're like, oh, but wait, it's still an action film, so we're going to throw some action. And that whole last sequence, there was no like subterfuge or kind of secret. It was just like, this is what we got to do.
Yep.
And even the beginning, though, too, like. And even though I felt like I kind of saw that coming, I thought it was still a really cool opening where it's just like the fallout of all the cities being bombed, and it's like that's how the opening of the movie starts. Yeah. And then you're like, oh wait, something's off here. What's going? And then it is, but
right when you start figuring it out, you're like, wait a minute. Yeah. So that was.
But when they're playing into that like full an audience, and you think everything's just completely falling apart, and you think and then like, nope, they knew what was going. They had it under control.
Yeah.
And I think just in general the plot, like. Because I feel like I think that's why maybe the second one doesn't, and even the third one a little bit, don't stand up to me as well. It's just because the plot is not like in the first one. Like I said, every time I watch it, it's like, wait, who's betraying who? And you really have to pay attention. You lose track of what the heck is going on in that movie.
John
the knock list,
this betraying is Girlface, betraying Ethan, betraying.
And like, who are all these characters? And these quoting Bible verses and meeting secret, all this stuff. But in the second one, it's just like, oh, there's the bad guy's going to release a virus. And there's, that, all right, we got it. And then the third one, I felt like it was, I haven't seen that one in the longest time, so I don't remember as well, but I felt it was very similar. Just Philip Seymour Hoffman kidnapping his wife, and like, well, I'm going to get you. I'm a bad guy. And then, but I feel like with at least these ones, this one more than the other, with 4 and 5, I did feel like, oh, they're actually paying attention. Like, it's still MacGuffin, wacky action. It's not like it's of utmost importance. They're kind of excuses to do these set pieces, but it did, like, especially that also, you mentioned the chase scene where when he's running. That car scene though in Paris was also just incredible. Like, that was one of the best car chase scenes I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it's funny because the French Connection obviously hailed as one of the best chase scenes, and it's just like. But I don't know, a weak connection, but still, it reminded me of that. But yeah, that chase scene was one of the best chase scenes, especially when he's circling the Arc de Triomphe, right?
Yeah,
and he's going the opposite way in traffic. I sometimes get excited in movies, but yeah, I was like jumping around in my chair, much to the chagrin of everyone else in the theater. But I had no one to embarrass myself, so I was not holding myself back. But yeah, that whole scene was just so, like, every shot is just so suspenseful. And I was that way in the ending helicopter chase too, actually.
Yeah.
So there was those 2 chase scenes I thought were some of the probably, I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of chase scenes in all of action films, but they're definitely up there in terms of great ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, just him doing his own stuff, but just the filming, they're just so visceral, and they feel so much more like grounded, I guess. I don't even know if that's right. I mean, in a lot of ways, they remind me of the Bourne series because I really like the action in that series as well. But like with the realness of that, but somehow still the size, scale, and scope and ridiculousness of like a bigger wacky action film. So making those crazy moments feel somehow like, oh man, when he's chasing someone in the helicopter, he's climbing up. What's he gonna do? He can't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he's gonna drop But it just feels like I would do that too. That's a good plan, right? Or just crash his helicopter.
Yeah, like that whole sequence was just so like, wait, what is? Yeah, Tom Cruise, you can't do that. You don't have a plan. So that was fantastic, and I think it actually does go a long way that he does his own stunts. Like I think it's kind of easy to overlook or kind of wave your hands at, like, yeah, whatever. He does his own stunts, but when you see him on the motorcycle going through the streets, and they make sure they get their money's worth. They put the camera in front of to show, this is Tom Cruise. Okay, he's climbing up something. Yep, this is Tom Cruise. And shoot, that's really him. This makes me feel part of the action. Like they're not pulling Hollywood magic over my eyes. I mean, they still are, but
I mean, it's a subtle way. I think too, like they don't overdo it either, because I think like if you're a filmmaker, the obvious thing, or maybe not the obvious, but the what you might want to do is overindulge on that and have these really long, Children of Men or whatever sequences where there's no cuts and it's just Tom Cruise. Look, we're not cutting. Not cutting. It's Tom Cruise, but they don't do that. No. They cut it just like a normal action film where it's a lot of fast cuts and stuff. But every shot is just, that's Tom Cruise. It's not a stunt double. It's not the back of his head or whatever. No. And even though it's a movie and nothing happened, there is the element like, oh, dude, you're gonna die. You could die right now, Tom Cruise. Which I don't know, that it was bad in terms of our obsession with celebrity, because even if it wasn't Tom Cruise, that was another guy who could potentially die. We shouldn't care less because he's not Tom Cruise, but you know what I mean, though?
Yeah, that's a good point. Sorry, everyone who isn't Tom Cruise.
So you guys have really you've upsold the action in this movie for sure, but you haven't really spoken much on, I guess, the overall plot. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to put this in a jokey way.
Okay.
How impossible was this mission?
Actually, that's a really good question, because it is funny, especially in the latter half of the film. I was thinking of these are hilarious, almost I don't know, escape room things, or it's like a video game. Okay, this is the deal, and it's just, as a writer, I can imagine them just having fun. Okay, what can we add to this to make it even more ridiculous? Okay, now add one more thing to make it even more impossible. Okay, add one more thing. They just kept adding these things. Okay, so there's a bomb that there's only one trigger for, and you can't deactivate. So once they turn it on, and there's a 15-minute timer, and it's on a helicopter flying away, and the switches look it's just okay, this is it's failed. They've failed. There's no way to pass this, and that's not strictly the plot, but it is just it's really well, really good action movie writing, right? It's just, they never afraid to make it hard on your heroes, and you feel that as the audience. You just what? No. Or when the lights go off and the big kind of twist near the end.
Oh yeah, you get so mad because
that's stupid Angela Bassett,
right?
By the way.
That was that's who I'm mad at, by the way, Angela Bassett.
Yeah, exactly. Or even that the scene early on when he's in the bathroom in the party scene. So there's it's all international. Spy. The general plot is a madman, basically, or this organization has access to these plutonium or whatever bombs that are going off, and he has to kind of track them down because of a mistake he made. Then it's his fault that they're in the wrong hands, essentially, is kind of the plot of the film.
Yeah.
So he's having to kind of infiltrate these, dark, black market kind of events and criminal, circles. So he goes to this big party to infiltrate this and meet up with this broker who kind of deals in all these bad things. And there's this, they show some of it in the trailer, but this fight scene between him and Henry Cavill are fighting this other guy in this bathroom. And it's, again, just really brutal and visceral and just and they're just getting beat up and knocked around. And it's really, really intense. It's a really good fight scene. It's just really,
Yeah.
But then at the end of that fight scene, it's like, oh wait, I have to go meet this guy. Oh, and you're the wrong guy, and he's dead, and this, and this, and this, and Tom Cruise and Ethan Hunt or whatever. He's like, I'll just figure something out, and he's just like that's like what? What do you mean? You'll just figure something out? It's
I like it is funny because Henry Cavill, of course, is very afraid because he's like, what do you can't just do that, which is kind of funny considering like. I think his concerns were genuine, despite the fact, whatever twist occurred. You know what I mean?
All the plot twists and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it was. It's just very like, what? It's like everything is working against them. So in terms of that plotting, I think it was really good. And then general plot is pretty basic in terms of these big, spy kind of films. Just, like I said, guys trying to take over the world. So that wasn't anything revolutionary. The bad guy was... Like Ryan said, I like the bad guy. He was the same guy from the last film, although I don't really remember as well from the last film. I thought he was much better in this one.
Yeah, I didn't remember him very well. Yeah, I like that club. I guess essentially that it was. Yeah. It kind of reminded me of John Wick 2, the opening kind of sequence thing. And I don't know if it's just a European club, I guess, but and this kind of like the violence was very kind of in your face and visceral. I thought they pulled some of those same notes that I like. And you mentioned too, Ryan, how I actually think they did a good job of just story wise, kind of bringing a lot of the other, like, because Michelle Monaghan, his wife from like the third and fourth ones or whatever, she actually has a semi insignificant role in it, and they bring back Benji, Simon Pegg and Ving Rhames, and the girl from the last one too, the MI6 agent. Like, so it's like in a lot of these films, especially in Mission Impossible, it feels like they're one off. But this one, they actually, as much as it does stand alone, you do get something out of it by them and kind of tying it back to a lot of the other films kind of throughout. Yeah. So that's always kind of cool. So I think it's the strengths are just in just like the way they set up these scenes and kind of put these characters in these situations, and some of the larger story stuff. The plot itself is it's a big action spy movie. You know what it's going to be. Yeah. What else, Chris? What Mission Impossible films have you seen?
I mean, now that I know that the villain of this one is reliant upon information from the previous one, I may have to watch.
That's what I said. I don't think it's like if you watch this film without watching the last film, you won't be missing anything per se. I don't think.
No. But he's a bad guy.
Yep. And it's actually kind of cool. Again, well, we're in spoilers, whatever. But in this one, even they don't like kill him. They don't make a point of just like. They just like he just gets knocked out or whatever, and that's the last you see of him, assuming he's arrested or I don't know whatever happens to him.
So let's see. So talked about the actors, talked about the plot, talked about the action.
Do you have a checklist, Chris?
I do. I wrote it down.
Let me ask you.
Let's talk about the music. How was the music?
Actually, the music was... I made a note. The music was really, really good. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the music. There you go. Take that, Chris. Yeah. You didn't think I was going to be ready for that twist question.
Surprise. We're Tom Cruise this whole time. We're wearing masks.
Got him.
Does he continue to use real masks in this one?
They use it on like 2 or 3 kind of like key moments. And actually, one of the plot beats is actually kind of interesting because they're, part of one of their plans is that they are going to use the disguise, but then they can't. And that's part of like, they kind of have to, we got to adapt. We'll just got to figure it out.
Yeah. Which is good because you can't overuse that trick. Because unfortunately, it's Mission Impossible films, they're bound by their name, right? They can't not do the mask trick, right?
Yeah.
But they have to find clever ways of still tricking the audience, and I think they still do. Somehow.
Yeah, they do, and because they don't overuse it. Yeah.
Chris, let me ask you: Would you see this movie based on the things you've heard from me and Sean?
It's funny that you asked that because I was going to use that as my closer. Because with as much as you and Sean have talked it up, I'm actually pretty interested. I was kind of just like, if I see it, I see it. If I don't, I don't. Which is essentially what I was with the last one, and then I just never did. But with as much as you and Sean talking this one up, I guess I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. I mean, well, that's why I was asking which ones you have seen. I was going to see if you like which ones you like the most or whatever.
Right.
Or if you, yeah.
I mean, obviously the first one is just like, because I mean, you guys already touched this, but it's different from everything that they've done since. It's a solid spy thriller, right? Like you never know what the hell's going on in it. It does what it does its genre really well.
Right.
Whereas from that point forward, John Woo is obviously an action director. J.J. Abrams is pretty much just an action director. And then they just kind of leaned into it.
Yeah, I mean, the same guys directed this one, the last one, Christopher McQuarrie. And he's directed, like I said, he directed Edge of Tomorrow and a handful of other films that are actually like, oh, I really actually like those films.
Actually, wasn't it Andrew Stanton that did Rogue Nation? It was some famous director.
Sorry. He just did the story. Sorry. Christopher McQuarrie just did No, wait. He directed it.
Whoops. That's Rogue Nation. Yeah, Christopher McQuarrie. What was the previous one? Oh, right. It wasn't...
Well, the funny thing is, though, so he also did Usual Suspects, which is another one of my favorite films. I really like that.
Oh, Brad Bird.
Bryan Singer.
Brad Bird was the director for Ghost
Protocol. Oh, that's right.
He was kind of the resurgence of the series.
Yeah. Sorry, when I said Christopher McQuarrie directed, I meant wrote. He wrote Usual Suspects, and he wrote Rogue Nation. And he also, it's funny though, he also wrote The Mummy, the one that came out last year.
Oh, really?
With Tom Cruise?
Because that movie sucked.
Yeah, I heard it was not good.
It was really bad.
So what's the deal? Like, they pair up writers and actors?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe as a writer, like, he probably might be friends. So, like, hey, I got another screenplay. It's perfect for you, Tom. And Tom, like, is friends with them, so he's attached to it. And I don't know, but I could see... but he's a pretty prolific writer. He also wrote Jack the Giant Slayer. Let's see, Jack Reacher, handful of other things.
Another Tom
Valkyrie,
Cruise.
Another Tom Cruise one.
Both those were Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly. So
weird.
I guess he really likes Tom Cruise.
Interesting.
But I mean, as much as the film's not so, like I said, not so much about specifically like the dialogue or the plot, it's still the writing in terms of the story and setting up these opportunities and cool scenes, and that's still found in the writing. So
yeah. So there you go, Chris. Go see it, and then tell us what you thought.
So, any last thoughts from either of you on the movie?
Well, I posed this question last week, or last episode, and it was, if you were only to see one movie this week or this month, would this be it? Or maybe just in general, who would you recommend this to? Not just, I would recommend this wholeheartedly to everyone all the time. If not that, then who? Similar to who we recommended Teen Titans to.
I would recommend this to my mom.
Exactly as specific as I wanted.
Sean, would you also recommend it to your mom?
Well, no, I have to recommend someone else.
Because Ryan already
one recommendation means that she will automatically go see it. So
don't waste your recommendation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I recommend it. I think Mom and Dad already saw it though, so that is also a waste. I would recommend it to pretty much anyone who is not a child or is not like artsy, pretentious film goer.
Anybody who would watch Teen Titans Go to the Movies, I would not recommend it to them.
I was going to say the opposite. If you watch that film, you will probably like this film as long as you're over, 15. And if it was like the only movie you saw this month,
I think that's fine. That would be okay. Yeah. I think that's all right. Yeah.
I would be okay with that.
I mean, there's some powerful movies out right now, but if you're like, this is a good summer movie and it is summertime and it's 2.5 hours you don't have to spend in the sun.
Exactly. That's what I feel like. If you are like a moviegoer who doesn't go to like movies every week or whatever, you just go to have fun. You go like whatever once in a while, and you go for like either big things or just to get like, this is the perfect, I think, opportunity for that.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy it. You'll have a lot of fun. You'll be entertained.
All right. So there you have it. Go watch Mission Impossible Fallout from Universal Pictures. I don't know if they Paramount Pictures. Yeah. So that's us. That's what we do. And
we 2/3 of us go watch films and talk about it. And then 1/3. Oh, we didn't mention Vincent Chewy this episode. We just mentioned him now, though. So, haha,
Yep.
They're still dead by however means we killed them. Thanks for your suggestions. We took them to heart. That one was really brutal, but we appreciate it.
So we had to do it.
We had to.
But we can't mention it on the air. It's too extreme.
Children are listening. Fans of Teen Titan are listening to this podcast.
Hopefully, one of us won't die in the next audio. What?
I know.
What should our next thing be? You know, what should we?
We pose that question every week, kind of, and it's hard. There's a lot of good. I like you talked or mentioned earlier, Ryan. There's a lot of good, like, if not indie films, but lower release or smaller release films that I am really, really interested in seeing and want to talk about. So I would not be averse, because up until now we have been talking big budget stuff, big release, wide mass market films. I would be okay if you guys. What do you guys think? Both listeners and Chris and Ryan, about doing some smaller stuff for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I will. Like I said, I'm probably going to end up seeing the 8th grade probably next week. So I'm up for that. I'm also up for Blind Spotting, Sorry to Bother You. Those are both fantastic films. So yeah, I'm on board.
As long as I know what I'm watching, I'll try.
So you won't go if you're blindfolded and kidnapped?
Yes. It'd be confusing.
Well, it doesn't sound like you have much of a choice,
if
that's the case.
So yeah. What do you say, Sean?
Yeah, let's do it. So until then, feel free to like us and subscribe us and rate us on iTunes. Paul, I know you rated us on iTunes, but we can't figure out how to find that rating. But thanks for rating us. We'll figure it out. And yeah, send us some emails with suggestions or some other smaller release films that you have seen and would like other people to see and might suggest for us. Otherwise, stay tuned till next episode. Thanks for staying after the credits with us, and bring it home, Chris.
We'll see you all after the credits.
Da, 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 da.